This topic that I'm covering in this video is probably going to make or break your business. Cost and pricing strategy. I know when I was trying to work out how to price my products, it was definitely something that I struggled with, and I still struggle with still to this day. It's literally the last thing I do just before I'm going to release a product. But in this video, we are going to take a look at all the different factors that go into pricing your products and ensuring that you are making a profit, you are competitive, and you are placing your brand exactly where you want it to be in this market. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Taddy G, and on this channel I like to share what it's truly like to run a business here in the UK, and also drop tips, tricks, gems, and all of that good stuff when it comes to running and growing your business. So the first and most important thing that we need to consider when it comes to pricing our products effectively is cost. What does it actually cost to produce this product, to provide this service? The case study that I am going to use in this video to make it a little bit easier to explain is of course a clothing brand, my clothing brand, and what it takes to actually produce a product so that we can then come up with the cost and then come up with the price that we are going to price our product. So when we're talking cost, we are talking about production costs. So that includes the raw material that it's going to take to produce this garment. We are talking the labor cost it's going to cost to produce this garment. All of the things that go into producing this garment. So let's take a t-shirt for example. So of course we're going to have to look at the cotton fabric that we're going to use to produce this t-shirt. We're going to have to look at how much it's going to cost to produce the pattern for this t-shirt if we're going down that route. We need to look at, say, if we're going to embroider or screen print the t-shirt, how much that is going to cost. We've got to look into labor costs. We have to look into garment labels, hang tags, all of that stuff. Those are the different costs that go into the overall cost of producing that particular garment. So the next thing we have to look at are our overheads. So overheads are expenses that don't directly produce the garment, but they are expenses that you have to bear in mind. So when it comes to a clothing brand, maybe you're still running it out of your bedroom or a spare room in your house, the overheads will probably be like your subscription to Shopify. If you're using Adobe to design your garment, your subscription to Adobe. If you do have an office space, it would be the rent you're paying for your office space. These are all overheads that you have to take into account when you're deciding on pricing your products. But I'll be honest, when it comes to pricing my products, I don't actually take into consideration my overheads. I probably should, but because I'm running two businesses out of this office, it kind of works out, if that makes sense. So don't be so fixated on your overheads, but just know that that is definitely something that you have to consider, and it is good practice to understand what overheads you have and how that is going to affect your profits in the future. And the final thing that we have to consider when pricing our product is our desired profit margin. So what I mean by that is, how much money do you actually want to make? What percentage of money above the cost do you actually want to make that will make you feel happy, that will make you feel like running this business is actually worth it? What profit margin do you want? Deciding on your profit margin is a fine balance between covering your costs and generating a healthy profit. Because at the end of the day, to run a business and to grow a business, we have to make money, and it's these profits that are going to help us grow our business. Now, there are three strategies that we can take a look at when it comes to deciding how to price our products. So the first one is cost-based pricing. So we just discussed all the different costs that can be associated with producing our garments, including the overheads. So when pricing our products, a strategy that we can use is cost-based pricing. With this approach, you are going to calculate exactly how much it costs to produce your garment, and then you are going to add a marker to determine how much you are going to end up selling this product for. This will ensure that all of your costs are covered and you are making a profit. Now, another strategy is value-based pricing. This is when a business sets their prices with how they want their target customers to perceive their business. And this strategy of costing is what is typically used when you start seeing those luxury or premium type pricing when it comes to clothing. What this type of business is focusing on is how they want their customer to view their brand, the perceived value of their brand. When it comes to my clothing brand, which actually uses value-based pricing a little bit when it comes to my pricing strategy, I also look at, how my website's gonna look. I ensure that it's a luxury website. I ensure that my packaging is luxury. I ensure that the shopping experience that my customer is getting is a luxury experience so that I can justify those higher prices. Another pricing strategy to look at is competitive pricing. So this is when you as a business will analyze your competitors' pricing and price your products accordingly. So what you would need to do is obviously get a list of your competitors. Say if you're selling a t-shirt, you're going to want to look at how they are pricing their t-shirts and then set your pricing accordingly so that you're sitting in that space of that brand that you see as your competitor. This type of pricing will help you stay competitive within the market that you're working with, and it will attract customers that are conscious about how much they are spending on particular garments. But for me, focusing on only one of these pricing strategies is a disservice. I feel like a good combination of all three is the best way to actually come up with the best price for your garments. Now, I do have a cost and pricing strategy calculator that I am going to go through in this video with you guys, and I will show you exactly how you can add all your costs and then come up with a price that actually works, that sits in a profit margin that you want. So let's go through a step-by-step guide as to how to price your products. When running two small businesses, there are so many moving parts. Keeping track of everyone's tasks can be extremely overwhelming. I use the Connecteam app to create and assign weekly tasks to members of my team. Connecteam is an all-in-one app for managing non-desk employees. My business is family run. It's made up of me, my mum, and my brother, and they both have their own lives. The great thing about the Connecteam app is that my team members can access it from their phone and see their tasks on the go. This week, we are preparing for Black Friday. I am in charge of the email marketing campaigns, my brother's in charge of the VAT returns for the end of this quarter, and my mother's in charge of inventory management and packing orders. This is exactly how my team will see their tasks on the app. The Connecteam app allows me to focus on my own tasks, knowing that my team members know exactly what's expected of them and when it's due. I can also catch up with what's been completed from the app on my phone. This is actually the first time my mum is packing and shipping orders by herself. I have put together a little bit of training that she will be able to access from the app. This is how she would work through the training so she knows exactly what she's doing. So, if you are a small business and you're looking for an app that is easy to set up and allows you to manage your team efficiently, Connecteam has a free version for up to 10 users. And if you have more than 10 users in your business, there is a 14-day free trial available and no credit information is needed. I'd like to say thank you to the Connecteam app for sponsoring this part of the video. So the first thing I'm going to want you to look at is your profit margin. So we're going to look at this as a percentage. So when we're looking at our profit margin, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pop onto the internet and you're going to want to look at what the average profit margin for the type of industry you're in is. So for example, with clothing, a good profit margin is around about that 50 to 60%. This might not mean much to you right now, but when we dive into my Excel document, it will become a little bit more clearer. So when it comes to clothing brands, just know that 50 to 60% is the desired profit margin that you want to have covered. Next, we are going to look at value-based pricing. The way I want you to look at this is, where do you want your business to sit in the market? How do you want your customers to perceive your business? So say if you're somebody that wants your business to be, affordable, you would need to price your products accordingly. And I will show you exactly how you would do that in accordance to maintaining that good profit margin. And then lastly, let's take a look at competitive pricing. So what I'm gonna need you to do is list about 5 of your competitors, and then say if you're producing, I don't know, a t-shirt for example, get all the pricing of their t-shirts, average it out, and see how you want to then price your product, or just have that price in mind when it now comes to coming up with the final price of your product. I feel like the best way to start the process of coming up with your pricing for your product is actually inputting all of your costs into this table and then going from there really. So what we're going to do, we're going to quickly dive into my screen and we're going to take a look at my cost and pricing strategy calculator. So we are currently in my cost and pricing calculator Excel document. I will have a link to it down in the description. So down here we have my cut and sew tab, and then we have my full package production tab. So for the purposes of this video, we are going to look at the cut and sew tab because I feel like it has a few more bits to think about. And of course, because I run a clothing brand, this is catered more towards clothing brand. So let's take a look at this first column here. I'm just going to call it a t-shirt. So the next column is our unit manufacturing cost. So how much does it actually cost to manufacture this garment? And for the t-shirt, I'm going to keep it there at £10 because it does cost £10 to actually manufacture the t-shirts for my clothing brand, give or take. Now here, we're going to take a look at fabric consumption per meter. To produce a t-shirt, it does take 1 meter of fabric to produce, and the cost per meter is priced in at £6.50. So what I've done with this calculator is I've taken this price and times it by this to then come up with the final cost per unit. So say if it took 2 meters, then obviously this cost will now be £13. Let's change that back to 1. So here we're taking a look at our embroidery / printing fee. So say if we are going to have a print on our garment, how much that's going to cost. So I've set that at £3.50. Then next we are going to have our shipping fee. So this is where it gets a little mathsy. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take the total cost of shipping and divide it by the number of units of clothing that is in that shipment. In this case, it's going to be £4. We are going to take that same mathematical formula to work out the fee of duty. Packaging, we're going to take the cost of how much it is to package the garment. So the cost of the box, the cost of the tissue paper, the cost of the sticker, we're going to add that all together and we're going to pop it in there. If you do want to have that separate, obviously you can add additional columns if you want. I would probably just try and add it up instead of messing up the table. Then obviously there's going to be a cost of hang tags, cost of garment tags, cost of care labels, and miscellaneous is anything that we might have missed out, we haven't accounted for. Any other additional costs, we could just pop them here. So the total cost to produce this t-shirt is £13.70. Now here is when it starts to get fun. So remember I said the desired profit margin for a clothing brand is between 50 and 60%. Here is where we start to play around with the retail price. So say if we're looking at competitive pricing and you've seen that all your competitors are pricing their products at £50 for example, we could pop in £50 here and then we'll see this percentage change. But we can see that this percentage is not laying between our ideal percentage. So that's when you got to ask yourself whether that margin is actually a margin that you want to stick with. It's completely up to you, but I suggest that you do. So if you can see that it's not quite reaching that range, we can increase our retail price to perhaps 60. And as you can see, it is sitting just outside of that profit margin, which is okay with me. So I would probably say that this is more along the lines of competitive pricing. So this is the lowest I could go whilst maintaining the profit margin that I want. Say we want to live on the top end of that profit margin and I say, okay, I'm going to cost it at 100. You can see that that profit margin is 69. If we go up up even more. Let's price it in at 150. That profit margin is now sitting at 80%, which is really, really high. So it's all a case of playing around this table and deciding where in this profit margin you want to sit. You don't want this to be a negative. You want it to be a positive percentage. And if you want to go like super low, I would probably say like maybe like 30% would be like okay. So in terms of this t-shirt, that would be pricing it in at around about £45 to make that 32% margin, which in terms of like actual monetary value, that's a profit of around about £14.30, which isn't too bad. That is how I would start trying to come up with the initial pricing of my products, taking that retail price, comparing it with my competitors, comparing it with how I want to be perceived, how I want to sit in the market. That is pretty much how I would price my products for my clothing brand. So guys, I really hope that this video has been helpful and you have a good idea as to how to price your products, how to make that profit, different strategies you can implement when it comes to coming up with the pricing of your products. If you have found this video helpful, please be sure to like this video, share it with your friends. I will catch you guys in my very next video. Bye.